Hello, this is Gerald Avasa. In this video, I will explain you how little differences there are between how we use language and the logic of language to express ourselves, to understand things, how things are combined by logical elements that we hang together and express them, how they hang together. In language, the same thing happens as in letters. Maybe we're not so much aware of it, but I'll give you an example how the system works with language is actually exactly the same principle as how has been used in letters, how letters are then more unconsciously associated with the same kind of elements and the kind of combinations that they make. And that's why I'm not going to have too much of explanations with images, with theory, all of these things. I'll just explain you how this works, how this language has certain rules that are not too far away from how the letters are using its logic to make them hang together with the elements that they represent, the elements that are recognized there. I will give you, of course, explanations, but let's give you first an explanation how much a description in language is similar to a description of the letter positions. And I have, for instance, an example. If we have the image of something that blows open, so that has an extension at the outside, like a blew up, almost like, and you combine that with the image. Let's have it as an image this time, with an image of a centralization. With language, you can say, okay, it blows up, from and towards its center. You can say, and that's actually already a description of B with A, and so within ball you have B, this expression of that blowing up. The next letter is about a centralization, and the last letter is about with a physical reference. So it always has this reference frame with letters that you can imagine one by one, with B being a physical experience, A also towards that physical centralization. It's also about physical letters. You can describe them with these images, but you have to learn them. It's not just about something that you can rationalize too much. You really have to experience these things. And this a kind of experience needs actually a development of a certain intelligence to combine these things. What kind of intelligence is that? This is a specific kind of intelligence that brings together these things, which is comparable, for instance, to one of these other intelligences, which is the one that you use in art, how to combine not just forms and colors and expressions, but so much so that you have actually also such combined, well combined combinations that it also expresses something. You cannot achieve that without developing that intelligence for it, from how does these things work together and so on, until it also works as a living intelligence as well to express this. The same thing goes automatically with your consciousness, in how much you can be aware of the letters, as much as you can be aware of forms and colors and so on. For most people, it's not very well developed. You need time for it, you need to develop it, and you need to give it some depth until you are able to express something that goes much further than combining it logically. The same thing is in the expressions of letters. How much we understand it, they work on its own, just like colors that combine themselves, forms combine themselves, they work on their own. And we have a vague intuitive feeling about that, but you have to develop it. You have to develop it through repetition, through seeing how things work in all kinds of combinations that you can have. That's why my book is also about learning to see all kinds of combinations, all kinds of angles, and so on. Now, of course, I already gave you one example, but let's give you a second example of that pressure, that goes outwardly, and you need a bit of imagination and intelligence to really understand, yeah, how does this go from here to there? How does a pressure that goes, yeah, with the ball it's easy, it's a pressure that goes outwardly and then it's goes centralized again, so we have this pressure inwardly and outwardly at the same time, and you come to the expression of what is a ball. If you immediately come from the expression of B towards the results into a physical realm with L, into the outside world, or O timed towards it, and so on, you have already the starting point of blow, as you can see. But the imagination also in language you can have, for instance, if you have this pressure, you can also express this of, yeah, it's being pressed open, let's say. This being pressed open, you can express it differently. And if you express it, for instance, okay, but how can we imagine something that is pressed open, goes back to a center somewhere inside, and then goes to the place where it needs to be? We can imagine that in our imagination as an image. We can have that, but it's actually also, you can describe it with words, what you do. So you have a pressure, it can go bigger, or it can go towards the center. How do you imagine that? For instance, with blowing, if you say, okay, it's being pressed towards a center. If you express that well with words, you already understand why blow goes much more focused towards the center. With another example, of course, of going somewhere, it's associated not with the center, but it's something new that comes in, and a place where that comes in, you have the beginning of bite, for instance, B-I-T. It's just superficial already. I'm not going too deep in that, but you can have these, you can learn these expressions and learn the difference of all the combinations. In words we do that as well. We understand the difference, and we learn also more and more subtle differences, even into intonation and so on, that you know, okay, where do I have to go to, up, down, with these expressions. If you go you go into something, or you go away from something, we can imagine that what kind of movement is there. It's the same thing as in letters. Let's have one word which is also expressing a certain balance, actually, also, that we can imagine. You can learn that kind of experience. And that word that I'm going to use is muse. On its own, it sounds also slight abstract, but it's an experience. It's also an experience. And this experience you can learn also by, again, combining not just words, but also letters. What is the letter M? How do we use the letter M? How do we express it? How do we sense it? How can we sense it even deeper? We use the letter M for these expressions that we can feel immediately. And it's almost like a feeling from inside our body, and it gives an expression as if it also is an enhancement to our bodily experience. That's why the where the is used. I have a theoretical explanation there as well, why this is so and how this is associated. But that's already the experience we experience directly with M. And that's the beginning, that's the inner experience of it. We sense it and we can enhance ourselves from inside out. That's what we express with it. The next letter which you hear is not the U, it's not the U, but it's the Y, actually. Y, also in my theory, I have expressed it in my book because it was written in Dutch first with the letter G, because that's the kind of expression how it is used in the Dutch countries and how we write that down. in English it's the Y, of course, the Y, which has more or less a similar feel to it, let's say. Also here, you can almost feel it as well. It's going to reach out somewhere, trying to find a way, but without disturbing anything, without disturbing what's around it. So it's not making immediate connections, which is there, because all the connections which are near are not about what is expressed there. The y is reaching out to something which is almost unreachable, into an unreachable area. So we have already a sense, what we are going to sense in Muse, from inside out, trying to find a way towards what is actually going beyond ourselves. And now the next letter, the U, is expressed in many ways. In many languages you have it from U to U. It's all the same letter, expressed with the same letter. U is really gives us a sense, okay, it's completely empty yet. You have to still fill it in. What it is, the associations has to be filled in. While with U, it's already filling itself in. It's filling itself in with in the process to fill it in, and that's where the letter U is used. The letter S then, and the next one is then. I'll just take the separate entities of experience here. The letter S, as you can, we also can sense the S. If you express, it's almost like the snake. You don't know really what to make of it immediately. From is there a danger here? What is going on here? Where is all these expressions going? You can sense that. So with the S, it isn't giving a sinister thing, it's just giving something which you really don't know yet where it's going to. The Y is already going to reach towards that. The S is really that experience that has nothing to do with our bodily experience where we started from, but almost the opposite. It's all the influence that comes from outside. If it's too much, all the influences and the whole feedback process is triggered almost to an over sensitive extent, but that's what it is. It's also a sensation, it's a sensitivity from what comes towards you. And the last letter, the letter E, usually also makes the conclusion what will be done with that, what will be done with that experience that I just expressed. It will be associated with that it has been related with a certain timed aspect, so that I know there are some changes around, they're being filled in. Let's make a planning there. Let's see what time frame it has. That's the last letter E, which isn't expressed there, but it's like that's also part of the essence of what I have. Just here again to what I expressed from letter to letter, with a little bit of intelligence that you have developed or already has developed, you can make the combinations. Just like in language, you can make the combinations well, like in the letter descriptions. If you have that expression that going outside and suddenly centralize, how can I imagine this? Yes, it is associated with a form of deliberate synesthesia. It's not a good word for it, synesthesia, because that's associated with a random effect, almost like a disease that you have, a random effect of your mind, a side effect of your mind. But no, it also is there and can be developed there deliberately. When you do these things correctly, when you associate these things correctly, you can imagine what you hear, what you associate in language as well, a bit better, and can also imagine that how this takes a shape. But it's not the only way how to understand the letter combinations. In this video, I expressed mostly actually the sum of experiences from inside out being filled in towards what is going back as a feedback. And I time this. I see, okay, what works, what are the changes that I can follow, and what can I follow up. That's the muse. That is working inside the words. The words in that way, if you can use your intelligence, they will become a living entity which you can make it worth a while to get to know it and to develop this sense of experiences better as well, so that you really understand what's going on, and it will work better that way as well, if we can express that well. Same thing in language. Okay, thanks again for watching. I have here the kind of book for preparation, and the kind of intelligence were also mentioned in my first book, The Fool's Tarot, which is based upon the system of the tarot, how we know it, with the first two arcanas. But there's also a third arcana that you can learn to understand, and that makes it worse, because we have several bodies of experiences, different ways of angles to experience certain things. But once you start to combine them, and also know in which situations, in all kinds of situations that you can give an order to them, it will develop actually a kind of intelligence. All these angles that you have there, the 22 angles, let's say, that you know how it is experienced from a physical sense, from an instinctive sense, from a rational sense, from an emotional sense, how these are experienced on that level, and you know the combinations, you can develop them into an intelligence. If you would only experience things like emotionally, without a rational background, or without a practical background, without an instinctive way from what is practical, what is not, it will have an experience which can only lead to disappointments each time, because that's what the book is about. All the patterns of emotions alone, rationality alone, or instinctiveness alone, a little bit less, but they all come down to, at the end, when you experience something from that angle alone, it will lead you to disappointment. By combining these things, you can see its relative positions, and you can balance these out. Balancing things out from all the angles at the same time, by realizing what kind of patterns they are, they create intelligence. In the third arcana, where you combine all the kinds of experiences, you have actually different ways of angles how to see things, and they are called the intelligences or the awarenesses. One of these awarenesses is the same kind of intelligence that works in art, and another one is like, now this works really well in language, because that's the thing that we use to combine these things, how they hang together and in which direction they can go. We can realize that better, and we can steer that better the more we realize that. Okay, thanks again for watching. Bye.